Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now the end of March of 2023. We just got a couple of days left and we are just around the corner from getting chapter 21 of The Mandalorian Season 3 that's going to have, by the way, a far different tone than the past couple of episodes by John and Dave. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about everything related to Kathleen Kennedy is that she's been having weekly meetings with Disney, and of course the executives, the board, Disney CEO Bob Iger, and really figuring things out with Lucasfilm as a company. Now, we already know that a lot of things are changing over at Lucasfilm. You know, the workplace is actually shifting. There's a lot of employees that are coming out and new ones coming in, as Disney CEO is really trying to revamp the company. That's going to take, give or take, around 2 whole years to really kind of just clean up house over there and really create a new vision for what Lucasfilm stands for. But that brings us to one big concerning thing that Kathleen Kennedy is heavily proposing to Bob Iger, and this involves renaming the company of Lucasfilm to something else. Will it move forward or will it not? Let's discuss about all of it and exactly what's going on between Kennedy, Iger, and the board and what they think about this. So, the thing about Lucasfilm is that, as you all know, it has a couple of brands. You got Star Wars, you've got Willow, you've got Indiana Jones, and those are by far the most notable ones, the most recognizable brands of Lucasfilm. And so we know that Willow was a big failure recently. It got canceled. There's no season 2 coming out. The TV show just did not meet expectations at all for obvious reasons. And so even the Indiana Jones TV series, I don't know if you guys knew about that, that's not looking too hot right now either. But that brings us to what Kathleen Kennedy had to bring up. Now, with Kathleen Kennedy, who recently had a very big meeting with Disney just a couple of days ago about varying topics related to Indiana Jones and Star Wars, part of their discussion had to do with focusing only on Star Wars and dropping the Indiana Jones TV show. However, one big thing that Kathleen Kennedy brought up is that she would like to see Lucasfilm expand beyond Star Wars and to rename of the company to something else besides Lucasfilm, as she believes fans only think about Star Wars and Indy when they hear that name. In a big proposal ahead of her departure, Kennedy is actually pushing Disney to rename Lucasfilm to something else entirely new. Given that Kennedy is still the president of the company for a while longer, she is pushing Bob Iger to rename Lucasfilm to something new that will shift away from George Lucas's reminder and his image of what he created before in the past. With Willow's failure, Disney executives only want to focus on Star Wars right now. However, many of the board members want to expand and focus on new shows and movies that can expand the company. This is where Kennedy's argument came into play, and came in that if they do that, a necessary name change to the company is going to be needed. Even Vice President of Lucasfilm, Brennan, is calling for a name change of the actual company. Let me pause here quick for a second, alright? Now, the likelihood of this happening is probably extremely unlikely. Let's just be realistic about this. This is something that Kathleen Kennedy is proposing, something that she is pushing Disney to do. This is something that she wants to happen. Will she actually make it happen? Well, it's not very likely in my opinion. I really don't see Disney going through with this. They know what kind of ramifications would come out of this if they did change the name. And not just that, it would really be a very terrible thing to do to George Lucas and his legacy. I mean, you just don't do something like that. It's literally like, you know, changing a world-known brand out there. For example, if you go ahead and look at Universal or, you know, Pixar or something, anything like that, just changing the brand entirely could very well hurt everything. Now, as you all know, Walt Disney World in Orlando is going under a name change, but it's keeping the general idea of the brand intact. It will be changing over to Walt Disneyland. This is something that they are still pursuing to this day. I don't know if you guys got any updates on that, but it has been going on for quite a number of months now. They are still pursuing that. But anyways, moving on. On top of this, Bob Iger is already refusing Kennedy's proposal and blocking it from moving any further. However, Disney executives are pushing Iger to agree with Kennedy's request. The likelihood of this even happening, however, is most likely on the low side. However, it's a conversation that will continue for the next couple of months or more until it comes to a full-on stop by the end of the summer the latest. Ironically, that's right around the time when they plan to fire her. This is similar to how Disney is pursuing changing Walt Disney World's name to Walt Disneyland in Orlando to create a consistent brand around the globe. Yeah, guys, I don't know if you guys knew that, but if you know Walt Disney World in Florida, that apparently is going under a name change very soon. I don't know if there's any recent updates about that, but they want to create a consistent brand. You got Walt Disneyland in Paris, you got Walt Disneyland in California. They want to create a consistent brand across the globe. Now, basically, I know that's not the same thing as this scenario, but it's just a little bit similar. But Kennedy wants to completely resurface the name of Lucasfilm to something else. And it really makes you wonder, what in the world would she even call this company if she did rename it? It would probably be something absurd, in my opinion. And this is something straight from Kennedy that really kind of just confirms even further that she does have some kind of issue with George Lucas and his legacy. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it has to do with him being friends with Steven Spielberg, because we know that Kennedy and Spielberg had a little bit of an awkward falling out a while ago, mind you. Who knows if it's related to that or something else. We may never know exactly what's going on personally between the two. But this, thankfully, I highly doubt is going to ever happen. Let's just be real here. This is a proposal. This is something that Kathleen Kennedy is pushing. It's something that she wants to happen. Will it actually happen? I highly doubt it. Now, this is just something interesting, though, however, because it just goes to show Kathleen Kennedy's true nature. She wants to vanquish Lucasfilm, literally. She wants to rename it into something new and to something different before she actually leaves or gets fired, whatever have you. We already know that she's creating her own production studio, so I don't know why this would even matter to her. We've talked about that too, of how she plans to create her own brand, or her own studio that's going to hold a new brand that's going to consist of new sci-fi movies, sci-fi shows, that's going to treat it as a competitor against Star Wars, Dune, and of course Star Trek, stuff like that. So overall, this is a very, very big development, and even though it may or may not go anywhere, I still think that Kennedy wanting to push for this confirms a lot of things about what we have been talking about for the longest time, that she does have personal issues with George Lucas for some odd reason, like I said before, that we may never learn about, because it's something deeply personal, most likely, that's not even discussed in meetings or anything around that nature. So it's a very interesting thing that's happening, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.